back. Pressing forward with our torso, we can release the leg out behind us for a warrior three. You can lower your hands down to the mat, and once you feel stable with your hands on the mat, you can begin to lift the leg behind you, working your way into standing splits. Lowering your right foot down next to your left. You're now in a forward fold. Allow yourself to come up one vertebrae at a time. We'll do the same series of movements, but on the other side. So again, you can come to the back of your mat. We're going to take that deep step forward with the right foot. We're going to let the left toes turn out to the side slightly. We're going to make sure that our right knee is over top of our ankle. Our hips are squared forward. Our arms are up overhead with our biceps near our ears, palms facing one another. To shift from this warrior one pose into a warrior three, you're going to lift up onto your toes at the back. Pressing your torso forward and bringing your arms up, you're going to release your leg out behind you. Lowering your hands down onto your mat. When you feel comfortable, you can begin to raise your leg up behind you in your standing splits. Lowering your leg down next to your right foot, standing in a forward fold. And we're going to come up slowly, one vertebrae at a time. As I mentioned, today is a bit more of a workshop style class, so I wanted to break down some poses. There are some poses that we do as part of the sun salutation, which means we may only ever see them as a transition. And they're not just transition poses, they are a pose in and of themselves. And one of the ones that I see quite often is Cobra, is part of the poses that we do as a sun salutation. And because we're doing it as a sun salutation, we may not have time to break it down for proper alignment. So Cobra Pose, if you come down onto your mat so that you're lying on your belly, you want to make sure that your hands are firmly planted on the mat and they are slightly back from being underneath your shoulders, just slightly. My elbows, not out to the side, are pulled back so that my elbows are pointing toward my feet. And my shoulder blades are down my back. And I like to ask people to breathe in and lift up without using their hands, just to see how high they can bring their chest and shoulders up without pressing their hands into the mat, just to give you a sensation of the proper alignment for you. Then you can lower your hands down. This is probably where most people would be comfortable in their Cobra. If you would like to take the back bend a little bit deeper, you can make sure that the shoulder blades are down, the elbows are pointed back. You can press up slightly more. But what would not be good for your body is when I see people press all the way up. That puts a lot of pressure on your lower back, and it is not good alignment for Cobra. Just doing that for a few minutes, it actually felt painful. So just a reminder, when we're working through a sun salutation, you often are coming down through Chaturanga, and then you relax your feet and you breathe in for Cobra. You want to keep that alignment in mind. Now, conversely, people who prefer to do upward dog during their sun salutations, it's a different pose entirely, and it has a different alignment setup, which would allow you to have that deep bend in your spine, and it feels great when it's done properly. So I'll break that one down and show it to you as well. So when we're in our plank pose and we are about to lower down through Chaturanga, in this case we'll stop in Chaturanga, turn our feet down, then let the hips sink down. You can see that the alignment was very different. My hands are back toward my waist. My hips can sink down. There's a lot of room for my back. Nothing is constricted. It feels good. From there, you can turn your toes back under, lift up and back for downward dog. Hopefully, knowing those few differences will help make your sun salutations more comfortable and safe and help you to avoid any injuries. The other thing I wanted to point out is that Chaturanga is a pose all on its own. I have to admit, a lot of us will say come down through Chaturanga. I do often myself, but Chaturanga is its own pose. So from your plank pose, in most sun salutations, you will say, go ahead and lower down through Chaturanga. Chaturanga is here. And then you just allow yourself to come down and lower yourself to the mat. But the actual pose is where you're stopping and your arms are at the 90-degree angle and you are in Chaturanga right here. And then you can lower down. So I wanted to break those down before sharing with you another beautiful pose that doesn't get a lot of attention, and that is Dolphin Pose. Dolphin is great for preparing for other arm balances and versions. Your Dolphin Pose, there's a couple of ways to enter into it, and I will show you the one that I'm most comfortable with, and then there's another one. It's just as good, it's just not the one I do very often. So Dolphin Pose, we'll start off with our forearms down on the mat, and you can see that I've placed my forearms in front of me at about shoulder width apart, and I want my hands to be planted firmly on the mat. My elbows are in line with one another, and I'm going to move my knees back into a tabletop position, curl my toes under, and then I'm going to lift up and back like I would for downward dog. Now, this is a great place to start. Ultimately, you want to try and get your shoulders over top of your elbows so you can walk your toes forward, feeling the weight of your body on your forearms. That is your Dolphin Pose, and there is another way to enter into it, which would be from your downward dog. So, downward dog, reminder, you always want your hands pressed nice and firmly into the mat. A great tip is to focus on your index knuckle, pressing it into the mat to take any of the weight off of your wrist. Then, curling your toes under, bringing your hips up and back for downward dog. Some people start in their downward dog and lower their elbows down to the mat for dolphin. Then still walking your toes forward until you bring the weight of your torso onto your arms. Bringing your knees down, you can settle your hips back for child's pose, because if you've been doing each of these poses with me, it does make you slightly out of breath. Child's pose is a great place for you to rest and rejuvenate. To come up and out of your child's pose, I wanted to let you know that we're going to do a little bit of work on our lunges today. Lunges are a great way to open up the hips, and they feel amazing again when done properly. So you can stand from the back of your mat. Take that deep step forward with your left foot. And you want to find your balance first in your high lunge. You can use your hands on your knees if you need to. And from there, you're going to lower down into a low lunge. Relaxing your right foot, letting your right knee settle into the mat, sinking your hips down. You can take your hands to the mat and move your left arm inside of your left knee. Now, normally when we do this, we can allow our left knee to turn out to the side, and I'm just going to move sideways so that you can see the alignment that I'm talking about. If I was in my low lunge here, and I've got my arm on the inside of my knee, You can come down onto your forearms if it's available to you, but another way that you can open up the body is you can allow your foot to turn out on its side, letting the knee open up and come even further into that lunge. Some people refer to this as lizard or gecko. Turning your foot back, coming onto your hands, curling your toe under at the back, lifting your knee up off the mat. Come to either side of your knee, pressed up and back for downward dog. Walk your hands back toward your feet, coming up slowly, one vertebrae at a time. Before we wrap up today, let's just make sure we explore the other side. So take a step forward with your right foot. Allow yourself to come into that high lunge, find your balance. Lower your left knee down, relax the left foot. Bring your hands down to the mat. You can take your right arm onto the inside of your right knee, sinking into your hips. Allow your right foot to turn out on its side, allowing the knee to come open. If it's available to you, you can come down onto your forearms. Planting your foot down firmly, come back up onto your hands. Bring your hand to the other side of your knee. Curl your toes under at the back, lift your knee up off the mat. Press the weight into your hands as you shift your hips up and back. Walk your hands backward to your feet and come up slowly, one vertebrae at a time. Now, to wrap up today, I just wanted to remind you that as you're developing your practice, it's great to do classes and continue on your yoga journey. It's also good sometimes to have a workshop style, really break down those poses, get to know how to do them safely, check your alignment, and take really good care of your body. To close, let's bring our hands to our heart center. Remind yourself to lead with your heart. Lower your head towards your hands. Let your mind surrender to your heart. Namaste. Have a great day.